Before we begin, if you're brave enough to walk through the dark side of human nature, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell us in the comments what you think truly happened that morning, because this case still leaves detectives haunted. It was just after 4 a.m., a gray Harlem dawn barely waking. The flickering lights inside 409 West 129th Street hummed like a broken heartbeat. A single camera above the elevator recorded what would later become the final moments of Carmen Lopez, a 47-year-old mother of four who everyone in the building described as the soul of the hallway. The footage begins ordinary. Carmen steps into the elevator, her tote bag hanging from her shoulder, a half-empty coffee cup in hand. She'd worked a night shift at a nearby care home and was finally heading home to sleep before getting her kids ready for school. But as the elevator doors close, a faint reflection catches, a figure entering the lobby seconds behind her. When the doors slide open on the 6th floor, the building is silent. Then, muffled sounds, a voice, low, pleading, and then one that chills to the bone. "Luis, stop." By the time police arrived minutes later, the hallway floor was smeared with a trail of blood that led to the elevator. Carmen had collapsed only a few feet from her door. Whoever had done it was gone, leaving behind a silver cross pendant, snapped and bloodied, lying near her hand. Detective Angela Ruiz, a 12-year NYPD veteran, stood staring at the scene as the paramedics called it. She'd seen plenty, but something about the way Carmen's keys were still between her fingers told her this wasn't random. It was personal. Neighbors began waking, whispering through half-open doors. Some said they'd heard arguing around 420. One man swore he saw a dark hoodie rushing down the stairwell. Another mentioned a blue sedan that had been idling outside since 3:45, but none of it made sense yet. As dawn bled through the hallway windows, Detective Ruiz followed the trail of blood back toward the elevator. The camera above blinked, recording only silence now. The body was gone, but the air still felt thick, as if it remembered what had just happened. Carmen's phone was found beside a spilled grocery bag. On the cracked screen, an unsent message read, "He's here again. I think he followed me." The timestamp, 4:17 a.m. That was 8 minutes before she died. Back at the precinct, Ruiz started digging. Carmen had recently ended a relationship, a man named Luis Marquez, 41, who neighbors said didn't take rejection well. He'd been seen lurking outside her building a week earlier, yelling her name through the intercom. Police had been called once before, but no charges were filed. Ruiz leaned back in her chair, staring at the frozen frame from the surveillance feed. The elevator doors closing, a shadow just behind them. It wasn't the first time she'd seen a jealous lover turn violent, but something about this case felt different, too deliberate, too silent, too clean. Then the lab called. They'd found partial prints on the elevator panel. Not Luis's, someone else's. And when the detectives returned to the scene to review the footage again, they realized something chilling. The camera that was supposed to capture the stairwell exit, where the killer had likely fled, had been disabled exactly 2 hours before the murder. Whoever killed Carmen Lopez hadn't just acted in rage, they'd planned it. Detective Angela Ruiz sat alone in the dim NYPD briefing room, the glow of the surveillance monitor flickering against her tired face. The image of Carmen Lopez stepping off that elevator had played more than a dozen times in the last 2 hours, each frame like a haunting she couldn't shut off. Someone had waited for her. Someone who knew her routine, her building, even the blind spots of its cameras. By sunrise, the precinct was humming. Detectives pieced together witness statements, canvassed nearby blocks, and cross-checked every vehicle parked near 409 West 129th Street between 3:30 and 4:30. That's when they found it, the blue sedan. It was parked 2 blocks away, engine still warm when patrol arrived. The plates were traced to Luis Marquez, Carmen's ex, but when officers checked the car, the driver's seat was pushed far back, too far for Luis's short build, and inside, on the passenger seat, lay a black hoodie, spattered with blood. Forensics moved fast. The blood matched Carmen's, but the DNA on the steering wheel, it wasn't Luis's. Detective Ruiz felt a chill that no cup of coffee could fix. She'd been expecting a clean line, a jealous ex, a moment of rage, case closed. Instead, the evidence was messy, like someone wanted to make sure it pointed toward the obvious man. By noon, Luis was already in custody. He didn't resist, didn't even ask why he was being arrested. "I knew you'd come," he said flatly, as Ruiz read him his rights. His knuckles were bandaged. He smelled faintly of bleach. In the interrogation room, he sat motionless, his eyes hollow. "I didn't kill her," he said finally, "but I should have protected her." Ruiz leaned forward. "Protected her from who?" Luis shook his head. "You think I didn't see the messages? The guy she worked with, always texting her after hours, dropping her home. She told me to let it go, said he was just being kind." He looked down, his voice cracking. "The night before she died, she told me she was being followed. She'd seen that same car outside the building for days. Not mine, another one." Ruiz's stomach tightened. A second vehicle? None of the witnesses mentioned it. She ordered the team to expand their search radius. Hours later, they found it. A gray Honda Accord, caught briefly on a corner store camera at 4:09 a.m., turning onto West 129th. The footage was grainy, but clear enough to see the shape of a hooded man in the driver's seat. The plate was registered to a name Ruiz didn't expect. Marcus Fielding, 38, a co-worker from Carmen's care home. He'd clocked out the same time as her that night. The moment Ruiz saw his employee file, the pattern clicked. The late-night texts, the ride offers, the friendly concern that might have crossed the line. But something about Luis still didn't sit right. When Ruiz stepped back into the interrogation room, he looked up slowly, eyes red but steady. "You think I didn't know she was seeing him? But what you don't know, detective, is that Marcus wasn't the only one watching her." He slid a folded paper across the table. A photo, grainy and creased, showing a man standing outside Carmen's building a week before the murder, his face half hidden beneath a cap. Ruiz flipped the photo over. On the back, in Carmen's handwriting, were 4 words: "If I disappear, him." The room went dead quiet. Ruiz felt her pulse thundering in her ears. This wasn't just jealousy, it was surveillance. Someone else had been tracking Carmen long before that night. And when the detectives ran the building's maintenance records for the disabled camera, they discovered the service request came from inside the building, filed under the name of a resident who had died 6 months earlier. Whoever orchestrated Carmen Lopez's murder wasn't just watching, they were living among them. Detective Angela Ruiz stood in front of apartment 6B, the door just across from where Carmen Lopez had fallen. The metal number plate hung crooked, and faint police tape residue still clung to the door frame. She knocked once, no answer. Then twice, still nothing. Inside, the air was stale when she finally pushed the door open. Dust-covered furniture, unpaid bills, and a flickering TV frozen on a news channel. The lease record said the tenant of 6B, a man named Eddie Malone, had died of a heart attack 6 months earlier, but according to the building's maintenance log, his name was still being used to access restricted systems. Ruiz moved slowly, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. On the kitchen counter sat a stack of mail, all addressed to Carmen Lopez, and beneath it, an NYPD evidence bag, empty, marked Camera 2, Stairwell. Her radio crackled. "Detective Ruiz, we just got the lab report. That partial print on the elevator button, not Luis's, not Marcus's either. It's Eddie Malone's." Ruiz froze. "Eddie Malone is dead," she said. There was a pause on the other end. "Then who's been signing his name for maintenance work?" In the bedroom, she found the answer. The walls were covered with photographs, hundreds of them, all of Carmen. Some taken from the building hallway, some from across the street, some from directly outside her window. Each one dated
cataloged and pinned in a pattern that sent shivers crawling up her spine.
At the center of the wall was one final image, Carmen stepping off the elevator, moments before her death. Scrawled beneath it in red marker, "She belonged to me." Ruiz's breath caught as she heard the faint creak of the floorboards behind her. "Detective." The voice was calm, almost gentle. She turned. Marcus Fielding stood in the doorway, hands raised, eyes blank. "I knew you'd find this place eventually," he said. Ruiz reached for her gun. "Hands where I can see them, Marcus. Don't move." Marcus didn't flinch. "You don't understand. I didn't kill her. I tried to save her. He was already here. He'd been living in the walls." The words didn't register at first. "What are you talking about?" Marcus pointed toward the corner, to a cracked panel behind the radiator. Ruiz's light caught movement, a shadow, a glint of metal. And then, from inside the wall, someone exhaled. The panel burst open. A man lunged out, filthy, wild-eyed, a knife flashing in his hand. Ruiz fired once, the sound deafening in the tiny room. The man collapsed halfway through the wall cavity, gasping, blood darkening his shirt. His ID fell from his pocket. Edward Eddie Malone, the supposedly dead tenant. He wasn't dead at all. He'd faked his death, stayed hidden inside the building, and watched Carmen for months. When she rejected his advances, the notes slipped under her door, the flowers she kept throwing away, he snapped. Ruiz stood over him as he tried to speak, voice rasping. "She said she'd leave. She couldn't leave. She was mine." By the time backup arrived, Eddie Malone was gone, pronounced dead on scene. Luis Marquez was released the next morning, cleared of all charges. Marcus, shaken and pale, left the city 2 days later, never to return. As for apartment 6B, the landlord sealed it off permanently. The hallway light above the elevator still flickers, sometimes at 4:17 a.m., the same moment Carmen's phone froze in time. Ruiz files the case report and closes her laptop. Another crime solved, another ghost left behind in Harlem's silent corridors. But as she walks out, her phone buzzes with a new message from an unknown number. It's a photo, a grainy still from a building camera. Ruiz, standing outside her car. The timestamp reads 4:17 a.m. If you thought this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe, because the truth, it's always closer than you think.